The problem is when you start a new chat with an AI model, or even if you want to move from one AI to another AI, you almost always have to start from scratch. You have to remind it about who you are, who you serve, what you do, how you make decisions, all of that. And that even happens sometimes within the same chat. I also found that it happens even if I give it information in the personalization sections. So after a lot of trial and error, I figured out the fix. It's creating a personal owner's manual that any AI can access, and that's very easy to port between different AI models. I'll show you how to create your very own in this video. This process is grounded in deep research on how leaders in the real world, human leaders, prepare their successors so that they know how to decide how they do, how they approach situations, and even having the unwritten rules that don't get written in the operating manual. I then took it and integrated it into an approach for AI models so that you can essentially be cloned from whatever AI model that you want to use. Here is mine right here. And I keep it on Google Drive. You can use anything you want, Obsidian, Notion, even your local drive to keep it in. The important thing is to have it in one central place. That way you're not copying and pasting it everywhere. And every time you want to make an update to it, it doesn't have to update a million different copies of it, which are quickly going to get out of date anyway. So I just have one source of truth for my owner's manual. It starts, this is a simple one, but it starts with these 5 files here, and they're all MD Markdown files, which AIs are very comfortable reading. So I like to make it easy for them. And then I also have a business folder with some other subfolders in there. I'll show you that in a minute. One of the most important files in here is the index file. This is a file that I tell every single AI to start with. So my first instructions to it is you always, always, always must read index.md in my owner's manual. What this file is it has a list of all the files inside of here and directions and guidance on when to access the files. Because I don't want LLMs or any AI models to download everything every single time there's a question. That would be a waste of time and resources and tokens. I wanted to know when it is appropriate to look at whatever documents that are in there. And this index.md file does exactly that. So every single time, for example, ChatGPT, I give it a chat, it reads the MD file, index.md file, and I can see it going, okay, like this is a strategy question. So I need to look at how I think, or this is like a writing question. I need to look at my voice and who I am, etc. I can see it going through the different files to find it only after it's read how to use it. That's why I think this one is the most important one. I've got a how I think, which is the decision-making process, how to work with me, which I think is important because if you want to think of like LLMs as almost like a coworker or just a team member, you don't want it to annoy you. So I do tell the LLMs how I like to work with people and machines and how it can work with me best. So it also doesn't frustrate me as much. So my voice, which is you're more like your brand, how you come across, do you like to be formal, informal, snarky, whatever it is, and who I am. The thing I like about this who I am file is it includes who I am now, but I've also included a version of my best self. I sometimes call it my storybook self, which I learned from Kevin Nations, but it's an elevated version of myself so that it knows who I am aspiring to be as well. And I'll go through how you can create each one of those yourselves in this video. In the business folder, this has branding, clients, products, SOPs, team, as well as an overview of everything here. My goal really is how can I create some smaller files that give it enough information for whatever it is it's doing. And that way it can know, okay, I have to go get another file or not, because I'm trying to also run everything with as much token efficiency as possible. And also, when you're talking to somebody or just anybody, again, on your team, when they're making decisions, they don't just suddenly think, I'm going to think of every single little detail I know about this business and my role and this person. No, like your brain already filters what's important to consider in the decision-making process. So that's really what I'm trying to do here with this owner's manual. To create one, start with your favorite LLM. And bonus note, I highly recommend that you dictate this into it using whatever program you like, Whisperflow, etc., because it'll come out much more naturally. And I think you'll also make sure you get more details than if you had to type everything out. So start with who I am. answer these 6 questions: who you are, what's your background, what are you building, what are your values, how do others describe you, and this part I love is what's your best self, who are you aspiring to be. And then ask it to create an MD file for the purposes of creating an owner's manual about you that other LLM can reference. So I always make sure that I give it the context of what we're creating here. The how I think is how I make decisions on a day-to-day basis. So you want to tell it your non-negotiables. You want to tell it your strengths, your blind spots, what influences you. I thought this was very smart to come out of the research that I did. And it's for you to think about how you make decisions specifically in high leverage situations and in urgent situations, because that often just reveals how you make decisions, what your values are, that type of thing. And so I found that very helpful process to go through as well. My voice is your communication style, who you're speaking to, your natural tone. I also like to indicate what words to avoid. If you have examples already of a wording, like words that you've already written or dictated before that you like, give it to it as an example and say, here's a great example of my communication style. And then also give it some more commentary around it, so it can create like a really good comprehensive MD My Voice file. How to work with me. So you want to think about if you could tell all your team members or anybody you're working with, your partner, how you should like to interact with people, and they would just magically change so that it's all about you. Like, this is basically your chance here. So you want to tell it, hey, what frustrates you? And what do you really like when you're working with people? Do you, like even just saying like, I like it when like people like very upfront and they don't have any flowery language or whatever, right? Or it's like, I always like it when people give sources to like every single thing that they say, like, how is it that you want to work? And I also say things like, I don't want emojis. Like, don't ask me all these different questions. Like, don't lecture me in a condescending way. Don't mansplain to me. But a little tip though, is I do have an escape route. So if I want it to sort of be a mirror to me and reflect back to me and maybe argue with me, like if I want to spar with it, then I give it a safe word. I always say, when I say this word, then you should be, sparring with me, basically, like be my debate partner. Otherwise, I don't want you to do that. And then finally, inside of your business, what I showed you, the different sub menus and the subfolders in there, you can put in here like what you do, how you make money, what your current offers are, even all about your team. As you're creating SOPs, you can just put them all in there as well. I would recommend that you run everything through some type of AI so that it can get put into a good, effective MD file. By the way, now, the index file, as I mentioned, it's the most important file and it maps every single file that's in there. So you can it really routes the AI about what to do. So you can just tell AI to create it like this. You can just say, create an index.md file that maps every file in my owner's manual, describes what's in each one, and gives the routing rules as to when and where it should access each of the underlying files. So I'd say something like that, and then ask it to create that document for you. And now you have your whole owner's manual set up here. Here's how to actually install your owner's manual in each of the AIs that you like to run. I'll give you an example in ChatGPT. Other LLMs are very similar and have similar settings, so you can just go ahead and just copy what works best in that particular model that you like. So in the custom instruction area in ChatGPT, it happens to be in the personalization area. I specifically say here, instructions in individual chats can override these instructions if I explicitly say so. That's because sometimes I don't want it to access it because I'm talking as if I'm one of my clients or somebody else, and I don't want it to be polluted with all the stuff about me. So it says, my owner's manual is my primary source of truth and is, I should put here, is accessed in Google Drive here. Always start with index.md when it is available. So I actually give it the link. And then it says, before answering questions about my business goals, projects, offers, content systems, or decisions, check whether this owner's manual contains relevant information. If you do not have access, ask for it before making assumptions. Okay. So I just added that inside of my personalization instructions. The other thing, let me just click save here. The other thing that I make sure of too is that it also has access to my Google Drive, because this is, so you want to make sure that you have that integration set up. In my chats as well, especially in the beginning when it's not used to using stuff like this, I do make sure that Google Drive is selected inside of the chat just to make sure that it can access it. Sometimes I forget and I just remind it, hey, by the way, take a look at Google Drive. And as a tip, also create a task and maybe a skill that says, hey, whenever I have to change something, that it updates the index for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Again, use that in your favorite LLMs or put it in all the LLMs if you want. But the main thing is that it's always pointing to the central one area that has the owner's manual in it. If you don't want to do it this way, you could do it inside of a project. You could call a project an owner's manual right here. And you could, if you wanted to, add as a source all of your owner's manual stuff in here. The problem with that is it's just limited to this project. But again, it depends what it is that you like to do. So go ahead, experiment, create your own owner's manual and implement it. Let me know how it goes.